Okay, we can get started, especially because we have a lot to get to in this session, a lot of really great things. But people can kind of filter in and then jump in when they get here. So first, I'd like to start off by just thanking you all for being here. We have a really great session set up for everyone, some really innovative strategies for funding food security initiatives. So we're going to hear from three presenters today. I'll start off with a brief introduction of all three of them for everybody, and then we'll jump right into their presentations. So first, I'd love to introduce Anna Holbrook. She has served in the Dean of Students Office at the University of Iowa since June of 2020. Supporting students through the Office of Student Care and Assistance, Anna has worked to provide a variety of services for students who may be experiencing any number of challenges during their college career. Anna also chairs Iowa's Basic Needs Committee and works closely with their Hawkeye Meal Share program, which she'll be talking about today, their food pantry and their clothing closet. Our next presenter then after Anna will be Jessi Walker, who is a coach for Linn-Benton Community College's SNAP training and employment program. She also provides, the program provides wraparound support and advocacy for students who receive SNAP benefits. She serves as the chair for LBCC's Food Insecurity Group, as a member of the college's Affordability Committee, and is a member of the STEP Steering Committee for Linn and Benton counties in Oregon. And then our final presenter today will be Shelley Mann. And Shelley has been working in the field of food insecurity for almost 12 years and is the program manager for Swipe Out Hunger. She was our keynote if you were here for the beginning of this session. And if you were, you may have heard this introduction before, but just in case, I'll introduce Shelley again. She has helped foster SNAP outreach programs at over 60 food banks in 45 states and has transitioned into her work with Swipe, helping to build programming for their more than 400 pantry network from her home in Omaha, Nebraska. All right, so those are all the wonderful presenters we'll be hearing for. Anna, do you want to start your presentation?
I would love to. So I apologize. I think hopefully this will go on easily. Cross your fingers that you can see my presentation. Can I maybe just get confirmation that someone sees the slides?
Yeah.
You do? Awesome. Okay, let me just put in presenter mode. Slowly but surely. I was just talking with the group beforehand. I feel like we've been on Zoom for how long? And I still have moments where I don't know how to work Zoom, but awesome. Emmy, looks good.
Looks great.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today and wanting to learn a little bit more about the work we do with food insecurity on our campuses, specifically for me at the University of Iowa with our Hawkeye Meal Share program. So excited to be able to share with you all about the awesome people and the awesome resources that we have on campus. If folks have questions, Emmy's going to send this presentation out to y'all later, and I have lots of time and energy, and I'm willing to connect with folks afterwards as well. Just also we'll have my contact information, so if folks have questions, always happy to help. But yeah, my name is Anna. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from the University of Iowa. I've been at Iowa for about, oh my goodness, I think about 5 years now. I worked previously in housing and then I moved to our student care and assistance office within the Dean of Students office. So we've got some really great folks that are working on basic needs on our campus. It takes everyone on campus, as probably you all can know from experience. It takes a lot of people to help support basic needs and making sure students are getting what they need met. So I have my supervisor, Nikki Hodis, who has been with the Hawkeye Meal Share program since its inception. I came about 2 years ago to this office and started working with basic needs. And then my colleague, Steph Beecher, who is actually our basic needs coordinator, helps work and together try to make sure that students' needs are being met. So a little bit of a history about our program. Our program has been going on for about 4.5 years. It started in 2017. We really worked to get a lot of folks on campus together to create and start thinking about what this program could look like. And then we're actually able to implement that in the spring of 2018. We had our first full year of the program. We're moving and grooving, thinking things were good. And then, the pandemic hit. And so we learned a lot from the pandemic, which has been really, really helpful, I guess, in the long term. If there are little nuggets of hope through this pandemic, we did learn a lot. And so have been able to adapt our practices to best meet our students' needs. So that's kind of jumping into where we are today. So for you all may be thinking about, maybe you already have a program like this on your campus. Maybe you're looking to set this program up. Maybe you're like, hey, I've never heard of this, but I want to set something like this up. We have done a lot of thought and processing. So if folks have questions and they want to process with me on this further, happy to do so, but we've got a short period of time here. But as we were creating the program, we thought of this in kind of like 4 different stages. So we thought about what our partnerships could look like. We thought about how we could make technology that was accessible for students and didn't create more barriers for students to get their needs met. Then we thought about how we would need to market, and then we thought about the implementation phase, right? So in our partnerships, we've had a lot of folks across campus who've been really essential in helping us be successful in implementing this program. We have connections with Office of Vice President, the Dean of Students Office, Housing and Dining, the dining piece specifically. There are student government, so graduate student and professional student government, undergraduate student government, our food pantry, our residence halls association, all these people coming together to really create and think about how we can meet students' needs, right, with a program such as Hawkeye Meal Share. So we got all those people together and then thought about how do we create a system where students can apply to this this program. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we kind of move forward. But again, not wanting to create barriers. I think sometimes not sometimes, but there's a lot of stigma around asking for help, specifically around basic needs. And so how do we better understand what the students' needs are so we can really effectively help them, but then also create technology that, again, doesn't create barriers. With marketing, we thought about how do we connect with folks that maybe have high touch points with students across campus. So maybe that's advisors, maybe that's faculty and staff, right? I'm not the only person that a student's going to come to for help or maybe knows about. So how do we really get that story across and the resources across to people? And then our implementation. If there is any doubt in anyone's mind that a program like this couldn't be helpful for your students, please use us as an example. In the first 20 days of our program, we had 875 students donate their meals. And out of the 875 students, we had over 4,000 meals that were donated in the first 20 days. So if there's any doubt, throw that away. Your students will utilize it, and it's just been such an awesome process, for us. So how does our Hawkeye Meal Share program work? So students can donate their unused guest meal swipes, or folks can donate money to the program that can be transmitted into like meal swipes. But all students who have dining hall meal plans, what they do is like a part of each of those meal plans is to get 8 guest meal swipes a semester. Some students use those, some students don't utilize those. So students that don't utilize them have the opportunity to share those or donate those. So students that need meals throughout the semester can utilize those. We're really, really lucky because we have a program where those meals roll over if they're not used. So if a student donates it this semester and we don't have, like, no one needs it this semester and someone might need it next semester, we can continue to donate those meals, which is really great. So when students go on to our application, and I've linked it here so you all can take a look at it later on if you have questions, but students can go on and they'll do like a brief survey then that will be sent to us requesting either 7 meals or 14 meals. So we call them meal packs. Again, this is like a short-term solution. So if students are needing long-term support, what we can do then through that application is kind of see a little bit better about what folks might need. And then we send all students a follow-up email with information about resources, other resources on campus and in the community, but then also offer to meet with them, which has really, really been helpful because we notice is that students, this is not a kind of singular need that students have. So for some students, yes, but for other students, there's a lot of other needs that aren't being met. So we meet with them and also try to find them long-term solutions. So that has been really, really helpful for a lot of folks. But really, again, make it as simple as possible. I talked a little bit about campus partnerships, and I'm not going to go into too much more detail. So again, you can look at this presentation later and kind of absorb all the information on here. But it's really, really important for us to make sure that we're having a lot of folks that are invested and involved in this process. I think a lot of the focus for our program in terms of distributing meals, marketing, that kind of stuff, that happens through my office and student care and assistance. But there's also a lot of back end, like administrative things that need to happen in housing and dining's end. We also run into like things where we, like during breaks, during holidays, all that kind of stuff where the dining halls aren't open, right? That information is shared with us so that we can update students so that there isn't a gap. So those are important like reasons for partnership. And then of course our students are a huge piece of that partnership. Wanted to also share with you all some trends. The first graph that we have here is our donations. So that's number of people that have donated. We have hundreds of folks that are able to donate meals. So it's just been really, really fantastic. Again, saw a dip in 2020, obviously because folks weren't on campus and weren't required to get a meal plan. But after the pandemic, again, learning a lot about basic needs and trying to move to create more space for basic needs to be met. That number has increased in terms of donations, but also has increased in amount of distributed meals. So last year, we actually were able to distribute almost 7,000 meals to students, which is huge. And doing a lot of research right now to kind of figure out what the impacts of having these meals and being able to focus on, instead of on like my need for hunger, you can focus on your academics and focus on thriving, trying to do some research around how that has been impactful for students, because that's huge for us, right? So a lot of really good data. Also happy to share that with you all. So I'm running a little bit out of time. I probably have gone over, so I apologize. But some takeaways for you all, I think, as you think about creating these programs on your campuses, focusing your work on destigmatizing seeking support. When students get meals, those meals go to their student ID card, just like other students who have a meal plan. So when they're going into the dining hall, they just swipe their ID card just like everyone else. That's something we've done, hopefully, to help destigmatize. But again, so much more work that we can continue to do. For us, what's been really helpful is housing our meal share program in an office that can assist with students beyond just granting meals. So again, can get students the meals, but how do we also help them create more long sustained support? And then the last piece is that partnership. I talked about it a lot, but it's so, so important for us. And it takes time and energy, but it is so worth it and will ultimately create a better program for you all. So here is my contact information. Again, I'm going to be here for questions afterwards, but thank you so much for allowing me the time just to chat about our meal share program today.
Thank you so much, Anna. We'll just keep moving right along. So Jessi, if you want to share your screen and go into your presentation so we have time for questions at the end.
I had lost my mute button. Sorry about that. Can y'all see my presentation? It says student hunger at LBCC.
It's not in presenter mode, but we can see.
Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Now.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. All right. So hello, I work for Linn-Benton Community College. I've been here for almost 5 years now. I work for the STEP program, which is a SNAP training and employment program in the Oregon Community Colleges. We're a 50-50 reimbursement grant. So 50% of the student supports that we're spending are able to be reimbursed back to reinvest into our program, which is really cool. One of the things that I first started doing when I first came to LBCC was participating in an affordability committee. We had a movement where it was wonderful. People were actually understanding that students need more than just tuition and book support. They need basic needs as well. So we were kind of split up into subcommittees based on what our interests were. And since I had a lot of knowledge of SNAP and food and all of that kind of stuff, I kind of took over as the chair of the food insecurity group. It was not necessarily accidental, it just kind of organically moved that way. So the way that we worked in the food insecurity group was we kind of took inventory first of what we already had at LBCC and what the needs were. We did not have a meal plan at LBCC. Our culinary school does our food for our Commons cafeteria. And then we also have a cafe and a bookstore on campus that all have food in them. But we didn't have a food plan. So that was really our major focus, was figuring out how to get students hot food on campus. And also access to nutrition at home. We had some athletes that were living off of ramen noodles. You cannot be an athlete and live off of ramen noodles. And of course, like the biggest thing that we needed was funding for these food resources. And a method of delivery for getting these to students. So some of the resources that we had, like I said, at the campus cafe and the cafeteria and the bookstore, we also had a small food pantry called Linn-Benton Lunchbox. Was completely funded by student and staff donations. We did not get any of the emergency food program USDA food for that, since it was only available to the college students. Our student leadership council also had a small budget for snacks for things like, we have a thing called Study Jam, where students get together in the Learning Center and eat pizza and cram for tests. That's been pretty successful. And then we also, of course, have SNAP and STEP here, and EBT is accepted on our campus store. So we wanted to see what we could do with the resources that we already had and how to kind of expand on that. So what we figured out that we could do is, rather than having people donate meal swipes, which we did not have at all, was creating a roundup campaign at the campus registers, like in the cafeteria, the cafe, and the campus store. We worked with our accounting to create a dedicated account to put those swipes into, or not swipes, donations into, when people rounded up at the register. And we started seeing people not just rounding up, but actually adding $5 and $10 on top of their meal or their book charge, which was really cool. We had food service cards that could be purchased outright, but it wasn't a meal plan. People weren't required to do that. So we already had the cards in place. We did present this at our in-service and got some people interested. And then we began a campaign with a lot of advertising, posters around campus and all public emails and all of that kind of stuff. So people started getting interested. We started seeing people filling out our form, trying to get food cards, and it became really, really exciting. So what we decided that we were going to do, since food was something that we did not have a ton of funding for yet, was we would provide a food card, but then we would also try to help a student find more sustainable method of feeding themselves while they were in school. So we put together the starter pack for them. And inside the starter pack is a food card, either for groceries during COVID, since we didn't have the food pantry available, or a food service card where they could eat hot meals on campus. And then we also had a self-screening tool that we worked with the Department of Human Resources and Partners for Hunger-Free Oregon, which is a SNAP advocacy group here in Oregon, to put together this screening tool that has all of the eligibility criteria that a student can go through and check off what applies to them. And then also there is a tool to help them prepare for the interview. It has some sample questions that would be asked in the interview, so that the student could know going in and applying for SNAP what they would be looking at and what kind of questions would be asked. We also gave them the college hunger is not a rite of passage, is a flyer for how to sign up for SNAP, how to apply for SNAP, and a list of food pantries and meal sites. We also, our Roadrunner Resource Center really started developing, so we started putting in contact information for them. And when somebody would fill out our form to get a food card, it would also automatically trigger an outreach email from Roadrunner Resource Center. Our food insecurity group across campus is made up of people from all different departments. Our first resort is kind of a where to go when you don't know where to go hub. They're kind of a switchboard for folks who have questions, and they also do a lot of problem solving in there. So we see students coming in there with academic issues. And then after talking with those students, our student ambassadors often find that the students are having basic needs issues at the root of what's causing their academic issues. So we've got a representative from there. Roadrunner Resource Center, of course, and our advising center. Enterprise Services, that was really instrumental in getting our account put together for the Roundup program, and also reaching out and getting us hooked up with Swipe Out Hunger. So we've gotten a lot of support from the Swipe Out Hunger program and best practices, and it's been really good. We now have somebody from we have a good partnership with our student leadership, and also the LBCC Foundation is getting involved. They're working with us on fundraising for fall term, which is really exciting. And we now have an affordability coordinator in the state of Oregon. There was a House bill that went through that mandated a benefits navigator for every college campus. So we now have somebody here on campus that can help people with signing up for SNAP and medical benefits and all of that kind of stuff. We also work closely with our Department of Human Services, and Partners for a Hunger-Free Oregon is always available for us when we have questions about SNAP eligibility and outreach and things like that. They have a lot of really good outreach materials that's a downloadable toolkit. One of the ways that we get people involved and interested in signing up for SNAP if they aren't already, because unfortunately there's a lot of stigma still around accessing SNAP, is we let people know that they could be eligible for other programs with their SNAP eligibility, like the STEP program, which can help with all of these things. During COVID, we saw a lot more folks signing up because internet connectivity and access to a reliable computer, if there were folks that were relying on the learning center to be able to access computers, now they need laptops and they need internet at their house if they don't already. So that's one of the ways that we get folks looking at SNAP as something more than just a benefits program. It's really for college support. And we call it sometimes a food scholarship. So we'll have frame it in such a way that it's a $1,200 a year scholarship that just pays for food. During COVID, we found that we needed some changes, and I know that I'm probably running up against my time here. Sorry about that. So we combined our funding with student leadership, since they already had a pot of funding, and we had a pot of funding, and there was no food being distributed on campus, and rounding up was not possible because we didn't have cafeteria open. We combined everything and made it all into grocery cards, which turned out really good because students were able to choose culturally specific and appropriate foods for dietary restrictions and things like that, rather than just being given a food box in the food bank. So we're probably going to keep that. We also needed alternative funding because our registers were no longer available for rounding up, except in the college campus store. So we are working with the LBCC Foundation. We're going to get, I think, a short period of time on Give Day where we're able to it's going to be an online campaign for fundraising. It's been really successful. We raised about $24,000 from the foundation last year, and everybody gets an hour. And everything that you get during that hour, all of the donations that come in during that hour can be dedicated to whatever your cause is for that hour. So that's really cool. So we also now have food service cards or grocery cards that are available. So there have been some good changes that have come from COVID. And that's all I got right now. Thanks, y'all.
Jessi, that was great. Okay, so just so we keep moving along, Shelley, do you want to go into your presentation now?
Yeah, and I'll be speedy because you guys have done a great job of explaining some of the like the swipe drive stuff that I was going to talk about. Let me see here. Will it let me share? It's not letting me share. That's okay. I can just talk about it. Let me see here.
Is it saying that you don't have permission to share or?
Yeah.
Okay. I did make you co-host. Let me. Try one more time.
I can always just roll with it too. Yeah, it's saying I don't have permission.
Yeah, let me try doing it again and see if it works. Okay, can you let me know now if you have the ability?
No, that's okay. I'll just talk about it. So I'm from Swipe Out Hunger. I've been here for 8 weeks. But I have worked for a lot of food banks, and I come from the Feeding America Food Bank Network. And I've been there for almost 12 years. So college hunger is a little new to me, but hunger as an issue in general is very not new. So Swipe Out Hunger is incredible. And there's a reason that I left food banking to go into this work in particular. We are the leading nonprofit addressing hunger among college students in terms of large network work. We have more than 400 college campus partners in 50 states, including almost 3 million meals served to date, and $70 million in legislation passed to end student hunger. So we're really working hard on keeping strong to the pillars of our work, which are on-campus solutions, which include the swipe drives that you're talking about, and then also just having a network of campus pantries. And then additionally, the foundation of our work is policy and advocacy always, as we work to try to alleviate some of the stress on you guys as you're doing this anti-hunger work on campus. What can we do at a legislative level to make that easier on you? And then the last pillar is student empowerment. And we're actually really rethinking that pillar because we don't want to be empowering students. That's not necessarily the work that we're doing. We want to be connecting them to each other to empower one another. So we're looking at it more as like a network engagement piece. A year ago, we had 140 campuses, and now we're at over 400. So it's really growing quickly, which is hence the new position. And so we are focusing all of our work in those 3 main buckets. Again, the swipe drive enables students to donate their meals. Campus food pantries, I have a secret agenda, which you probably could tell this morning if you were on the morning session, which is that campus pantries are wonderful, expansive, holistic campus pantries that include resources beyond food are key, fundamental and key. So we're really working on how do we build out those pantries to make them more of a basic needs hub model, and what can we do to provide the resources that folks need to be able to do that. Let me skip over some of the swipe drive stuff. So we're doing a lot of things like handing out micro grants. We're trying to figure out how we can get more sustainable funding so that we can hand out those micro grants. In our most recent campus pantry, we found that most of the schools who responded to our campus pantries said that they either struggle with 2 of 3 things. They're either struggling to get staff and volunteers, they're struggling for space, or they're struggling for funding. So those are the areas that we can really help fill by helping to provide a network that gives internal advice and also that provides some sort of gold standard examples of schools that are doing amazing work. Iowa, Linn-Benton, amazing. It's super fun to get to see you and hear about your programs because I have read about your programs. So really cool. We're trying to hand out some micro grants to help with the funding stuff. We're working on trying to secure some refrigeration and things like that so that campus pantries can really expand and offer the healthy and culturally appropriate food that they need to. We also are in the business of creating all of these basic needs hub models or modules so that folks can start to branch out of just regular campus pantries. SNAP outreach is always one of those. That's my background of federal lobbying around SNAP. So it's something that we're definitely focused on providing resources for and are always here for you, even if you're not a Swipe Out Hunger member. We want to reduce stigma on campus through those on-campus solutions, and then reduce stigma to the general population through our advocacy efforts. So that's kind of the gist of what Swipe Out Hunger is doing. If you or your school are not currently a partner, please take a look and sign up. We are really relaunching with the growth of the network to provide as much as we can. Program design is my specialty, and I'm hoping that over the course of the next few months, we're going to have some really cool stuff to offer. So that's what I've got.
Thank you so much. You really got a lot into that.
Oh man, there's so much.
Okay, thank you guys all so much for presenting, but also for all the work you're doing for students and for sharing that with us today, because you all are doing such inspiring work that I think we can all learn a lot from. And I think there's a lot of great opportunities to learn from your guys' programs and implement either something similar or like kind of the same program at our own universities. So now we'd love to open it up to questions from all our attendees. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Or if you'd prefer, you can just unmute yourself and ask our panelists whatever questions you have. Well, while we're waiting for questions, I have a couple of questions for you guys. So one thing I was just kind of wondering, I know you guys mentioned stigma some, but I was wondering how you feel, especially for Jessi and Anna, how your programs have been impacted by stigma. If you feel like it's kind of like prevented them from being utilized as much as they could have been, and then also what strategies then you've used to decrease that stigma. And Shannon, I see you have your hand up here. Do you want to unmute yourself? Okay. Well, maybe if you guys can answer that question, and Shannon, if you want to put your question in the chat, we'll get to it right after.
I can definitely start. I work a lot with SNAP also, so stigma is something that I am very familiar with. I've had folks come into my office and say that they didn't want to take something away from somebody else who needed it worse. Some of the ways that I talk about that and food banks and things like that is it's there for you. You're not taking anything away from anybody. There's plenty, and SNAP is an entitlement program, meaning that they have put it in the budget that everybody who needs SNAP can have it, and it's not going to cause somebody else to have less. Talking about food cards and things like that as school cost of attendance, and that this is just a part of paying for school, and this is a school program that's helping to pay for that. So those are a couple of the ways. Also, getting more people across campus talking about basic needs support and being familiar with it, because I was surprised to find out how many people had not crossed paths with SNAP and things like that when I came to work here. So talking about it as if it's just a thing that everybody does is really important, I think.
Sorry, got to get my Brittany mic down. I totally echo that, Jessi. I think for us, the biggest thing is sharing our story and educating our campus about basic needs. So many people do not have a understanding of what basic needs, what that looks like on our campus, right? I think there's a lot of faculty who use that same old adage, and not just faculty, lots of folks across campus. Well, I ate ramen in school, so like, what's wrong with that? And I'm sorry that they had to eat ramen, right? That's not great. But students, that's not good for students now either. Yeah, I think that education piece is so, so important. And also understanding like that's happening to students across like a campus, right? So like graduate professional students, undergraduate students, our faculty and staff, we have a pantry on campus, and we have faculty and staff that also utilize that space. It's something that folks across campus are experiencing in, and I think is a responsibility of folks across campus to engage in, to find solutions. And so yeah, that story piece and that education piece, it can be really hard sometimes, and if anyone wants that strategies or wants to just talk stuff out, like happy to sit and be a part of that too, because it is tough, but it is so, so important, so worth it. So yeah, Jessi, echoing everything you said.
I'll chime in on that too, in that we do several like continuous evaluation type surveys, network-wide surveys. And we just launched our student survey, which is mostly for beneficiaries of campus pantries or swipe drives. And in that this year, I edited it to ask some questions that might like allow them to define stigma themselves, by just kind of asking about stigma in a couple of different ways, and then looking at sort of how that impacts their usage of programs. So we're really hoping to be able to put out some good data on that in the next 6 months or so. We're about to publish a paper from our pantry survey earlier last year. So, we're hoping to pump out a little bit of data and really address stigma from a data-informed perspective.
And then I see that Shannon has her hand up. So Shannon, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I think I got it figured out.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right, that's great. Yes.
It took some privacy settings. Sorry, folks. Well, first and foremost, thank you for all of the knowledge and insights you all have shared. I want to give a special shout out to Anna, because I worked with you at University of Wisconsin-La Crosse in residence life, and I'm very
Oh
proud
my
of the
gosh,
work you're doing
Shannon,
now.
I thought your name sounded familiar. It's so
It
good to hear
does.
from you. Small world.
Yes.
Okay, this is great.
Anyway, so proud of the work that you're doing. This is why I got into the work, is for students like you. So thank you. Anyways, my question was just for non-residential community and technical colleges that may not have a meal plan that can be subsidized for students through financial aid funds, what would be your recommendations for discussions with administrators and other campus stakeholders on addressing the potential need, especially for students that may be facing food insecurity? And this is noting at my institution, we do have pantry locations at multiple campus centers, one that has been longstanding. We've been doing this work since the early 2000s at my institution, and 3 that have been opened during this academic year. So kind of having that context as well.
Looking for my mute button again. I've got 3 screens going on here. So my suggestion would be to talk to anybody who will listen, people that you are already comfortable talking with about real stuff. Start with them and kind of feel around and see who would be open to join in those conversations. I think that we got several people who are meeting regularly with or are members of management who are very passionate about these things. So I run my mouth to anybody who will listen, and sometimes I catch a fish.
Jessi, I feel that. I'm a professional pain in the butt, so I feel you.
I also think, and again, I'm not at a technical school or 2-year school or whatever, right? So, but data is huge, and Swipe Out Hunger has been really great at sharing some of that data, because it's been harder for us as we kind of start things out to be able to have enough resources to gather data, right? But have had a lot of folks that have been able to share their research with us to be able to present and say, hey, this is the like people, it's hard to argue against data, right? So yeah, I utilize data from all over the place to be able to get that and get people's attention to say, hey, this is something that's important. And it is hard. It's difficult. It's challenging to be able to get folks to kind of see that this is something that's really important and needs to be addressed. But yeah, you'll start building that team slowly but surely, and that's where it starts to get really exciting. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Anna. And no, I definitely appreciate that. I'm actually facilitating focus groups right now at our campus and our sister campus in our district, to be able to kind of facilitate some of this conversation. And so, yeah, I really appreciate the importance of data. We're also in the midst of a student needs survey right now that's live and in living color. So we're getting some good, robust responses from students. Yes, Anna, we're going to have to connect after this. Thank you.
This is so exciting. So please, yes, please.
I'll also plug, so like with some of our evaluations, like our, all of our stuff is open source. So if you want to see the types of questions that we're asking, if you want to look at that, also, while those surveys are live, which that student survey is, if you're a Swipe member, or if you want to become a Swipe member, which is extremely easy, it's literally a signature, we will send you that survey and you can send it out to your students and we'll share your data tables back with you. So you'll be able to see, you know, what your students are saying if maybe you don't have admin support that will let you do a survey like that on your own.
Shelley, proud member of Swipe Out Hunger since September 2021. I've been joining as many of these sessions as I can. So thank you for the work that you do. I've really appreciated learning from Swipe Out Hunger over the course of this academic year. And yes, proud member, we're there. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we do have a question from the chat. And so thank you for those who are putting their questions out there. We appreciate it. The question is, and I think this could go to all of the presenters, is the eligibility for SNAP challenging for college students to meet? I believed that I heard previously in the workshop that SNAP's eligibility requirements were difficult for students to qualify for.
It is definitely challenging. One of the reasons that we developed this, or we didn't completely develop this on our own, we had a lot of help and riffed off of Partners for Hunger-Free Oregon's screening tool. But the reason why we got so focused on that was because so many students were being told that they were eligible and then getting rejected after they had gotten their application in, which is totally demoralizing because it takes a lot for somebody to be able to even ask in the first place. So what we have found that is totally going to hold you up from being able to get SNAP is if you are under 22 years old and still living at home with parents. Everybody's information has to be included in the application, so everybody's income. If you are living with roommates, and I'm just giving pointers here, if you're if you're living with roommates and you all purchase and prepare together your food, they will want to see your roommates' income information as well. And so y'all will be considered one household. But if you do not purchase and prepare together, then you are considered a household of one. So they'll only look at your income. It is walking a tightrope, but being prepared with some of that eligibility information, and I can share this screening tool. I'll have to dig it out, but I can share it if you're interested. I'll put my email information here in the chat, and y'all can email me if you would like a copy of that. It's out of date right now. It's got income information on it that has not been updated yet. And it's set for the state of Oregon too, which is probably really different for other states, but I'm happy to share that as well.
Emmy, I know we're running out of time, so you just let us know when we need to stop. But yes, it is very hard to get folks connected with SNAP benefits. We have some really good partnerships with our financial aid office that has been really key for us. And then we've also worked to get connected to our area's kind of like point person for SNAP. And that's been really helpful because we've just been able to create different tools and connections and resources and programs to kind of help make that transition or that process a little bit easier. But it is hard, especially since benefits during the pandemic, there was more available to students, or it was easier for students to get SNAP benefits, and now they're closing that back up again. So that can be really frustrating for students. Like, it's frustrating for us, but again, that partnership piece has been really, really essential and helpful.
So I'll pass that to you, Shelley, if you'd like to add anything. But just to make a note of the time, this breakout session has technically, the time slot for it has ended. So there's a 15-minute break between the end of this session and the start of the next session. So that's just a transition time. So you're welcome to stay in this session and ask questions if you'd like for the next 10 or so minutes. But also, if you need to step out and take a break or want to join the next session a little bit early, you're also welcome to do that as well. Oh, okay. Bye, Shelley.
Because I have a meeting, but thank you so much for everything. And also totally fangirling out. I loved seeing in the intros, I was like, oh my gosh, I love seeing all these schools that I've been watching come in through all these surveys and reading about so much. And being in Omaha, I'm not too far away, Hawkeyes. So maybe I'll have to come pay a visit. All right, thanks everybody.
So do we have any like last minute questions for Anna or Jessi?
I did have a question because I just want to know, I know it's different at a four-year college, but and maybe you covered it and I missed it, but a lot of times the resources that they're using become completely unavailable when the college closed down for something, whether that's, holiday break. Where do you encourage the students to go? Because like some of those students, like we've talked about, they don't even have basic needs. So maybe they don't have the money to go home or to go anywhere else, but the residence halls are closing, dining hall is closing, those types of things. So what is the support that's given, I guess, during that time?
Yeah, we're just, again, really fortunate. I know this is not something that happens across other campuses. So a couple things. We really try to make sure that we are connecting with our campus community, like our greater community. There's a lot of food pantries in our area, but then also a lot of other resources that we can connect folks to. And so like we have a running list that we send to students to make sure that they know about what is accessible to them. Another thing, so this is the part that we're just really, really fortunate to have, is we have like a student life emergency fund. And so we've got folks that have been donating money so that if emergencies do come up, students can apply to this and then we can give them chunks of money to, I mean, during the pandemic, folks needed technology, right?
Right.
They couldn't afford technology, so we were able to help them. We were able to do different things, but sometimes what we are able to do is provide that money for like a couple $100 to be able to pay for food during that time period, right? So that's been really, really essential and helpful for us. And there's some kind of finessing around making sure that like students' financial aid hasn't met capacity, because there's just some administrative things behind in the back end, but that's been really, really kind of a game changer for us to be able to provide that longer term support, or shorter term support. So that money is also really nice because our international students have access to that too, which is a population of students that don't necessarily have access to like financial aid, right? And so when they are struggling, right, and they need support, we can't just say, hey, let's see what like a potential loan could look like for you, right? So that's money that they can access to. And yeah, so that's been really, really helpful. So resources in the community, other like programs on campus, but then again, the emergency fund has been great for us.
Thank you.
We've also got an emergency fund that provides grants of up to a certain amount. They usually want to know what the specific needs are that the student has, if they're needing car insurance or something like that. They want to know what the cost is going to be, but it has been almost painless for students to be able to apply for that. And also we take care to make sure that people know about community resources that are available, and we make referrals also in my program anyway, make referrals to community partners that are also running a STEP program or have something that's available even to people who are not receiving SNAP yet. So we're really connected. Western Oregon is just one great big small town, I think. Like we cross paths with folks from all up and down the state all the time. So we are fortunate to actually know people a lot of times by name, that we can call them up and ask questions.
Okay. Well, thank you.
There's one more thing I'd like to add to that, because I think it has been really helpful for me as I grow and learn. There's like different communities of practice that Swipe has been able to connect us to, where folks get together maybe once a month, maybe once a semester, and they chat about like things that are working best for them. We have one for like our Big 10 group. That has been huge. Because folks sometimes have different ideas, and they just come to you and you're like, oh great, I'm going to use this, but the rest of us don't know about that. So just being able to share and have that community, oh my gosh, that is so helpful and so great for us to be able to grow and learn.
Thank you.
Well, I guess let me double check. I think the chat was, there were no other questions, I think, just lots of gratitude for this wonderful session. So I think that brings us to the end of this session, but thank you both so much again for taking the time to be here and speak about your programs. I know it was really inspiring to me, but I'm sure it was for everyone else here as well. So let me know if there's anything you need from me going forward after this session, but thank you so much.
And Abby, I just want to say I appreciate the flip charts with the post-its in the background. That is what my kitchen looks like right now I'm doing an actual research study on student basic needs, so I love it.
Thank
I was
you.
looking at that anytime you talked. It was great.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invite, Emmy. This has been really good. I'm excited that other people around the country are interested in doing this kind of work, and makes it totally worth it.
Yeah, Emmy, you are a rock star. Keep doing this great work.
Yeah.
Have a good one,
Have a good day.
everyone.
See ya.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Christina, I just want to say thank you so much again for helping with this session.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I hope it was helpful.